Beep, beep.
Oh, hey Scruff, what's up?
Oh, hey Roz. Oh, nothing much. We're just going to have a big party for all my friends.
Cool, what's the occasion?
Occasion? No occasion. I just thought I should do something nice for all my friends. I am a loving dog.
Oh, well that is very loving of you, Scruff.
I think so.
Hey, you know what?
What?
We're going to read a part of the Bible that's actually about loving people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 48.
Oh, is this still that Jesus guy up the mountain teaching his people about how to live God's way?
You bet, yep.
Oh.
So let's see what Jesus says.
Okay.
Okay, he says, "You have heard people say, love your neighbours and hate your enemies."
Oh, he's a good teacher, that Jesus, isn't he? Love. Great teacher.
Okay, so you think that's a good thing to do, Scruff?
Oh, I think it's an awesome thing to do. I mean, that's what my party is all about, loving my friends. Look, I've got Clarence and Percival and Gruncherina and Reginald. They're all
Okay,
invited.
Scruff, that's really nice, but Jesus didn't just mean love the people next door.
Oh, no. I'm not just inviting them. I'm also inviting Trevor. I mean, he lives out in the country now. And Leroy, he's from Neptune. And then they've got Percy.
Okay, Scruff, you are obviously very loving.
Oh, I think so.
But I think we should keep reading.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So it says, "You have heard people say, love your neighbours and hate your enemies.
Yeah.
But
But?
I tell you to love your enemies and pray for anyone who mistreats you."
Roz, I think you made a mistake. I think you just said, love your enemies. That's okay.
No, Scruff, I didn't make a mistake. That's what Jesus said.
What?
Yep. I tell you to love your enemies and pray for anyone who mistreats you.
What? Love your enemies? What are you talking about? Why would you love your enemies?
What, Scruff, do you even have any enemies?
Yeah. Cavendish.
Cavendish.
Yeah. He's the cat that lives next door. Oh, he's so mean. He always steals my food and he sometimes scratches me on the nose. Oh, yeah, he is my mortal enemy.
Well, Jesus says to love your enemies.
But why? Why would you do that? I mean, enemies are mean. Enemies are annoying. Enemies. No. Why would you love them?
Well, because Jesus says, then you will be acting like your Father in heaven.
Huh?
Yeah, see, God's way is different.
Huh?
Let's keep reading. He makes the sun rise on both good and bad people, and he sends rain for the ones who do right and for the ones who do wrong. If you love only those people who love you, will God reward you for that? Even tax collectors, they're like school bullies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even tax collectors love their friends. If you greet only your friends, what's so great about that? Don't even unbelievers do that? But you must always act like your Father in heaven. See, everybody loves people who already love them. I mean, that's easy. But Jesus is saying to love people even who are hard to love.
Yeah, but that sounds really hard.
Well, actually, loving your enemies is really, really hard.
Wait a second. You said Jesus said this, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jesus, he doesn't know what it's like because he doesn't have any enemies.
Scruff, of course Jesus has enemies. Let's read another verse of the Bible. It's from Romans chapter 5, verse 10.
Okay.
It says, "Even when we were God's enemies, he made peace with us because his son died for us." See, Jesus did love his enemies. He loved his enemies so much, he died for them. And that was really hard. But he did it so that we could have peace with God.
So he did have enemies. And he did love them, but he even died for them.
Yep.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, and that's why Jesus wants us to love our enemies, because he loved his enemies, because that is living God's way. Like he said, always act like your Father in heaven. So, why don't you read Matthew 5, verses 43 to 48 yourself and think about how you can love your enemies. Scruff, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just going to give this loving your enemies a go. I'm going to invite Cavendish to the party.
Oh, that is nice of you, Scruff.
Yeah, good, because then if we get hungry, we can always dip him in chocolate.
Scruff! Oh!
Beep, beep.
Hi everyone, I'm Larissa. In his famous Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells his followers that they are to live God's way. To live God's way means doing things the way that God would. And throughout the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells us what that means. To live God's way means keeping your word. To live God's way means loving everyone, even your enemies. And to live God's way means not worrying, but trusting God. Now, we're not always going to get it right, but thankfully, Jesus did always live God's way. And so now, by trusting in Him, God will always accept us. And when we trust Jesus, He says we are to live God's way. Now, Jesus summarizes all of this in the Bible, and this can be found in Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. It says, "You must always act like your Father in heaven." And that is going to be our memory verse. I'll teach it to you with the actions, and then you can repeat it after me. It starts like this. Jesus says, your turn. Jesus says. And we're making a cross with our arms because the Bible says that Jesus died on a cross. But it also says that 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead. And then we go, you must always act. Your turn. You must always act. And then we go on to say, like your Father in heaven. Your turn. Like your Father in heaven. Great work. And then we just say where this is from the Bible. So we're going to go, that's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Your turn. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Nice work. And that's all there is to it. So now you can jump up and do the memory verse with me and some of my friends. Are you ready? Let's go. Jesus says, you must always act. You must always act. You must always act like your Father in heaven. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Now let's do it small and quiet. Are you ready? Let's go. Jesus says, you must always act. You must always act. You must always act like your Father in heaven. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Now let's do it big and loud. Are you ready? Let's go. Jesus says, you must always act. You must always act. You must always act like your Father in heaven. That's Matthew chapter 5, verse 48. Good job, everyone. See you next time.